In this video, I'm going to show you how to build this simple automation workflow that automatically qualifies any new inbound leads that you have coming in through your business. Let's say in your business, you have an inquiry form that looks something like this. You offer services, so you want to know a little bit more about the customer so that you can make sure it's a good fit and the project that they want to work on is right for you. We're then going to pass that information through this simple workflow, which has a custom AI assistant here built on OpenAI's platform. Here are the specific instructions here. It's going to score that lead based on a 1 to 5 scale through 5 different points. It's going to format that response in exactly this JSON format here so that we can then pass that information back into our CRM, which we use Airtable for, and make sure that in our CRM, we have all of the information collected from the inquiry form, and then we also have our lead qualification assistant's analysis of this lead and whether it is a good fit for us or not. And we could do loads of different things based off the back of this analysis. We could say if the ICP score, so the ideal client profile score, is more than 15, send to this person and make sure that the prospect gets a specific email. If it's less than 13 or 15, then, send a specific response out, make sure that they get some resources. So there's a bunch of stuff that you could build off the back of this, but today we're just going to spend a few minutes building this super simple but highly valuable assistant out and then plugging it into our workflow. But before we do that, let me just show you the core CRM system here, because this is what we will be building our workflow on top of today. We will be adding a new company when a form is filled in into this database here. And then we'll be running the workflow on the company record and also connecting it to the contacts, all that kind of good stuff as well. If you're looking for a scalable system that can grow with you and your team and is set up for automation first principles, then Core CRM is something you might be interested in. And if you want to get your hands on that, you can join the Automation Architects community in the description below, where you'll also get access to all of the templates, the prompts, everything that we're going to go through in today's video. So yeah, let's jump straight into it. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up our Core CRM. We're going to come to companies here. So you can see we're in the interface level here, but what we want to do is we want to come into the view data. So we're going to come into the Airtable backend, and you can see that we have all of these companies. This is all dummy data here for having all of these companies in the demo account. Now, the first thing that we're trying to do is build a form. So if I just show you my website, for example, if we look here, we go to work with us, and then we want to be able to, when somebody clicks tell us about your needs, we want to bring them to this Airtable form. So we need to connect this up first and build this so that we can actually collect the data from the lead. So we already have in here the stuff like website, customer stage, team size, turnover, ICP score is already in there, but we're going to want to add a few extra fields. So if I insert to the right here, you can see that I want to add these extra 5 fields or 4 fields down here to make sure that we collect more information. These are all going to be long text fields. One is going to be a business description. The next one is going to be a challenges faced right now, so their current challenges. The next one is going to be the tools that they use. Just call this tools. And then the last one will be why now, right? So why are they reaching out right now? What is the pain that they have? Now, your questions might differ. One thing that I would highly recommend is working with ChatGPT to just figure out what questions do you need to ask so that you can actually get the best results for you and your business and your specific situation here. Because I'm going to give you the prompts here in this video, but you might just want to take the prompt that we use and then copy and paste it into ChatGPT and say, hey, how do I make this fit my business? And it should give you the answers that you need to be able to understand what these different questions that you need to ask are. So now that we have these fields all set up, we can go ahead and create our form. So I'm going to build our first form. We're going to link this to our company's record. So let's just call this new inquiry. Let's just call it that. We're going to create the form. Obviously, you can make this really nice. You can add your logo. You can put a cover image in here if you've got the right plan on Airtable. So there's a bunch of stuff that we don't need in here. So we don't need logo. We're going to remove that. We don't need customer stage because that is something for internal only. We've got team size. We don't need ICP score either because that's something that we'll be calculating afterwards. So we've got name, website, team size, turnover. And then we're going to add in those extra fields as well, right? So we've got tools. We've got why now. So this is enough information that we can collect to make sure that we are doing a good job on the scoring rubric. Now, this is all company information. So in this group, I'm actually going to, if I just click on the group there, I'm going to click on show the group title. Then we're going to put company info. And then we're going to change this to company name, even though it might be obvious. And then you would really want to make sure that all these are set to required, right? Because you want to make sure that you do get all this information. You don't want people half-arsing the form and then not getting the information. And then it's kind of pointless having these questions on here anyway. So you can, if you want to, I'm not going to just for time in this video, but you can relabel these. It's not going to change the field name in the back end, but you can relabel these to whatever you want so that it asks questions a little bit more like this one here, right? So what kind of business do you run? You could just drop that in there. And the same with the rest of them. Now, there is a point of this that we do want to connect this company to a contact. So there's somebody, that is a person filling this form out. So we want to collect their information as well. So I'm going to add another group. And then we're going to create some new fields again here because we didn't quite add them before. So underneath create field, I'm going to put single line text. I'm going to collect the first name. And then I'm going to do another one for the last name. And then I want their email. So I'm going to go email. And I also want to collect phone as well, right? And you might not want to collect the phone, it's up to you, but I'm also going to collect phone, create the field. Just to tidy this up, you can just drag and drop these next to each other so it creates a tighter group. And I'm just going to call this your info. Right, so that is their personal information, and then we also have the company information. And again, you'd want to make sure that all this stuff is required. So we're going to publish this. And now we have this new form to work with. And if you set this to anyone on the web can access, you can literally copy and paste this link onto a button on your website or into a link on your website anywhere, and then you can use this form wherever you want to. So here we go with our form. This is now live. So the next thing that we want to do is set up our make.com automation. So if I come over to scenarios in make.com, I'm going to create a new scenario. So there's a couple of different ways we can trigger this automation. The easiest and simplest way is by using Airtable's trigger here. So if you open up Airtable, you can see triggers when a new response is submitted. So a new response to a form. We can add a new hook here, and let's call this new inquiry form demo. One day I will learn to type. And then if we click save, you can see down here that we get a hook here. So the next thing that we can do is copy this address to the clipboard, and then I'm going to come back over to our form here. And if I click on edit, and then come into the settings of the form, you can see on the right-hand side here, it says redirect to a URL. We want to turn that on because we want to be able to paste that hook URL into here. And at the end of that URL, we do need to make sure that we send over the newly created record ID from Airtable into make.com. So if you come to the end of this URL here, make sure that you are right at the end of it. I've just got the Airtable help docs open up here just so that you can see. One of the things that you need to do is make it so that we have this question mark and then record ID equals record ID. So we need to just copy that, and then we're going to drop that onto the end here. So now we got the end of the hook, and then we've got record ID equals record ID in the brackets. I'm going to click on save. And what that's going to do is it's going to send over that record ID once this new form is submitted. And then what we can do with that is we can actually use that ID to go back into Airtable and pull out all the information and then process it. So that's probably the easiest way of doing it, but there are a few other ways that you can do it as well. You can trigger a webhook, a custom webhook from an automation within inside Airtable, which is how I use it on my custom build. You can even watch for a new record that's created in the company record and trigger the workflow that way. But with something like that, you are only going to be triggering the workflow every 15 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever it is that you actually set it to. It's going to keep checking to see if there's any new records. So that's not the most efficient way of doing it, especially if you're getting a lot of leads. It will try and process them all at the same time. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend that way. So I'd recommend either doing it this way or creating a custom webhook and then firing the data over through the automation in Airtable. So for this video, we're just going to use this. I'm going to click on run once. And then what we'll do is we'll come over to Airtable here. We'll publish our form. And then we're going to submit some test data. Now, I have some test data in here, so I'm just going to use one of these. So let's just copy and paste this stuff in. We'll probably speed this a little bit up. So now we've got some test data in here that you can see. This is for Nico Market, which is a two-sided marketplace for artisan cat products. So it seems like ChatGPT has been pretty creative here with its example. But if I submit this, remember we've got our Airtable module running here. So it's waiting for some new information. If I click on submit, now you can see it's redirecting here. And once it hits that, it says accepted. And now we'll get that information in here. So now we have the record ID, and we can use that by going to Airtable, get a record. Then we're going to open up our core demo. So our core demo, come to the table. We're going to go back into the companies, and then we're going to plug in that record ID. And then if I just take that quickly, and then if we run this module only, paste that in. So now you can see it's pulled in all of that information for us here, right? So we now have that information to work with, and we can plug that into our custom GPT assistant, which is the next step. So now we've got to the point where we've got the form, we can take the data in from the form, and now we can use that data in the next step for the OpenAI assistant. So if I come over to OpenAI, you want to go to platform.openai.com and create an account if you don't have one already. And then if you come to dashboard, you can see on the left-hand side, you will have this assistant panel here. And we have a new assistant, right? An untitled assistant here, ready to go, ready for us to work on. So I'm just going to call this new inquiry, or let's call it lead qualification bot or qualification assistant demo, right? Now, I'm not going to go through the ins and outs of this prompt and getting this all done with you. I'm just going to show it you and copy and paste it in. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the process of how I got this. Day to day, I always have ChatGPT open. I'm just constantly working with ChatGPT on pretty much any task that I'm doing. I just have it there as just like a sort of a little sidekick, a little co-pilot. And as I was going through this process of building this out, I was saying, hey, look, I want to build a lead scoring assistant, and I want to make sure that it follows a strict scoring pattern so that I can make sure that any new inquiry that comes through, it's always going to be scored in a consistent and reliable way. And I want to make sure that it is a fit for us to work with. I want to make sure that anybody that we do work with, we definitely know that we can help. So I gave it all the information about my business and what I'm trying to do and who we work with and all that kind of good stuff. And then it created this for me, this system prompt for me. So it's put this scoring rubric in here. It's given it some basic instructions at the top. And yeah, it's added all of that in. Again, if you want to get this prompt and if you want to download the make.com workflow that we're building out here, if you want to get this template, and if you also want to get access to the core CRM, you can get all of that in the Automation Architects community down below if that's something that you're interested in. So after the scoring rubric here, we also have instructions on how to format the response. Essentially, it's just telling it to output this in JSON format so that we can then use it in our make.com scenario. So I'm going to save that in. Now, I like to up the model here to 4.1 mini. So we keep it a small model, but it's a little bit more powerful. And the key here, this is a really key point, is most of the time when you're just building an AI assistant like this, you'll kind of leave the settings how they are. We don't want a lot of variance in the output. We want the output to be pretty consistent because it's following a set of rules here to score the new lead that's come through or the new inquiry that's come through. So you want to turn the temperature right down from 1 down to 0.2. All right, so if we drop it there, then that's going to make the output just a lot more consistent. And I've tested this with the same data, and there's not really any variance in the score. I tested the same data 3-4 times, and it always output the same ICP score at the end, which was really cool. So now that we have our assistant, that is all done and ready to go. Really easy to set up. Now that we can come back over to make.com, let me get rid of that. And then if I click on add another module, then we're going to go to OpenAI, message and assistant. Then we want to make sure that we're using the right connection here. So this is in my natural AI agents project. Then we're going to use our new assistant that we just created. So you can see we've got our lead qualification assistant demo. And then we want to be able to pass through a message here so that it can actually score this lead on the right format. So very simply, in this message, we're just going to say, here is the new lead data. So we're going to put company name, website, turnover, team size, business description, tools used. Then we have why now. And what else do we have? We have one more, which is challenges, right? So current challenges. So then we're going to come back into here and we're just going to start dragging these over. So we've got website there. We've got, where are we? Team size is there. We've got turnover is there. We've got business description goes there. Challenges goes there. Tools. Why now? And we also need the company name, right? Where's that? The name is there. So now we can click on save. And again, if we run this, what's going to happen is the ChatGPT assistant is going to just output the text JSON, and then we need to format that. So let's just save this first. We're going to click on run once. So we've got our test data here. We're going to fill in this form again, and then we'll come back and we'll see the output so that we can then process that and start adding it back into our Airtable database. All right, so we got our test data here. We got Emily Johnson from Bright Loop Learning, team size 6 to 10, turnover 350K per year, online cohort-based courses for data science. Tracking student progress across LMS, Slack, and Stripe is error-prone. These are the tools that they use, and they want to free up the team to create content instead of doing admin. So now let's just check we've got our response is being waited on. If I click on submit, it's going to take a little second here to redirect that information to this URL. That's accepted. Now you can see it's now processing that information. So the ChatGPT assistant now is going to run the scoring mechanism, and then we'll see what it outputs. So if we click on this here, this is the score breakdown. A little bit hard to read in this, but it's got a total score of 20, so it looks like a pretty good fit, right? So 20, and that's out of 25, right? So if I just copy this, because we're going to need that in a second, and I'm going to come to here, I'm going to type in JSON, and we're just going to want to parse the JSON. And the string is just going to be the result here. So we don't need to change the data structure. Just put the result from this ChatGPT assistant into the JSON string, and then we should be able to go from there. Now, if I just click on run this module only, and if I paste that result in, so I can come over here, as I just did a second ago, just copy this result. I'm just going to paste that into here just so we can test it. And now you'll see that it outputs the score breakdown, the total score, and the fit feedback into 3 separate fields. So then we can use that in our Airtable database. So now we're going to come back over to Airtable itself. We're going to back into view data. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to put the extra fields in here. So we got our ICP score already. So that's where we're going to put the score that the assistant gives us. Then we're going to insert right here. We're going to have a little long text field, and we're going to call this scoring summary. Have that as long text, and then insert right once more. And then we're going to call that potential response email. Let's type that in. So now we have our 3 extra fields. We can come back over to Airtable. To make.com. We can add on the final module here, and we're going to go into Airtable, update a record. We're going to come into our bases. We want our core base again. So our demo. And then the table is going to be companies. And then we're going to grab our record ID from earlier on. And then all that we're going to do is add in the ICP score, right? So the ICP score is going to be the total score. The summary is going to be the score breakdown. And then the potential response email is going to be the fit feedback. All right, so now we're just going to save that in. Now we have our make.com automation is finished, right? So that's all set up. Let's call this new inquiry lead score assistant demo. Save that one in, and then we'll test this one last time and we'll get this wrapped up. So if I come back over to our core CRM here, I'm going to come to the form. Let's load the form up. Let's copy and paste some more test data in here, and I can show you then how to make this look a little bit nicer on the core CRM interface to wrap this up. All right, so we've got our test data in here for a legal tech SaaS company, B2B. If I just make sure that we click on run once. So let's have this running now. Let me click on submit. Once we get our accepted screen here, we should be good to go. Now our ChatGPT assistant is running, doing the scoring mechanism. Then once that's finished, it's going to put that into JSON so that we can work with it and then add it back into our Airtable record. So if I now come back over to Airtable, let's go to view data. And then in our company's record, if I scroll down here, you can see Clarity Legal Tech. This is all the information that they submitted. And we now have the ICP score added in, right? So 25 says it's a really good fit. And then here's the potential response, which is here. Now, obviously, we don't really want to just use it in this database format like this. The core CRM is fully built around an actual really solid working interface like this so that your team can use the interface without having to get bogged down in the data layer. So if we come over to our companies now, you can see we've got these guys added in here, these test ones that we just ran. And in here, we have some information, but we just want to make sure that this looks right for the team so that they can use this properly. So if I come over to the edit page, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit. So I'm going to put related contact over here. I'm going to add the customer stage here. I'm going to put the website can stay there. I'm going to drop this company information into a background color box because that can be edited. I'm not going to call this enhanced data. I'm going to call this lead assistant data, lead assistant analysis. Then we've got our ICP score. We want our scoring summary. And we also want our potential response email. I'm going to take the background color off there. I'm going to add one more group, and then we're going to call this group. Yeah, we want the inquiry data in here, right? So everything that they submitted in the inquiry. So the business description, the challenges, the turnover and team size are already there. We want the tools. We also want the why now, and then we're going to add in the turnover and the team size. Now, currently, you can see all of this is editable. So if I publish this interface, you can see this is currently editable. We don't want this to be editable because it's information that the customer submitted. So we don't want the team just like messing up the information that the customer submitted. So what we will do is click on each one of these and make sure this is view only, not editable. And then we can put this down as inquiry data. And then let's tidy this up by just putting these stuff side by side so it's a little bit more cleaner. Now I'm going to drag the inquiry data up here. So now we have if we click into a company record, we're going to have the company data at the top. Then we've got their inquiry data if they submitted an inquiry. We've also got a lead analysis underneath that as well. And then we just got our system fields that are in all of the core records. So click on publish. Now you can see we've got this working in a really nice way so that we can actually qualify every new lead that comes in. We can get a good understanding of, are they a good fit for us? Why? And what is a potential email that we can send back to them straight away to move them to the next step or not to the next step. So hopefully this one was useful. I really love this. I've built this straight away and added this onto our natural CRM in Airtable. I made sure that it's all working and consistent. So yeah, hopefully this one's helpful, guys. And again, if you do want to grab the core CRM, and if you want to grab all the templates and stuff, do feel free to jump into the Automation Architects community. Would love to have you in there, and I would love to speak to you in there as well and find out a little bit more about what you've got going on and see if I can help. All right, so stay well, and I'll speak to you in the next one. Cheers.